Hi everyone, it's going to be a short video tonight as following the weekend and a basically like post staggered holiday trading session. Overall, it was basically what we would call not really a doji day, but pretty much basically it like similar to a doji day. The Nasdaq finished higher on the day, up 0.16%. Still, the Nasdaq closed lower than where it opened. So once again, it's another half-hearted positive rally. And if you go to the Russell 2000, the same thing can be said as basically another semi doji-like print. Not really, but it's close. It isn't a great session. We gapped up and opened it at 1007.7 and closed at 1009.25. So once again, most of the work was done in an overnight session. The one positive on the day, though, is that the New York Stock Exchange on its rally higher, even though it barely made any of its gains, also intraday, basically opening at 92.50, closing at 92.66. Its rally came on above average volume, so that's good confirmation. So while it was not good that we basically saw the Dow Jones Industrial Average lead the way higher today, much better than the Russell 2000 and especially a lot better than the NASDAQ. The one good news about it is that at least volume was higher. So while the Dow Jones Industrial Average and New York Stock Exchange plays catch up, it is doing so on higher volume. So overall, nothing like to be too super cautious about up here. If you're like, oh, why did the Dow Jones outperform the NASDAQ today? It's all right. It wasn't by that much. And overall, we're still basically in a basic neutral range for the S&P 500, Dow Jones Industrial Average, New York Stock Exchange, and the NASDAQ, while being under a buy signal. As you can see, it's not doing so. It's not uptrending so well on huge volume. So a reversal up here would definitely not shock me. However, with us trending higher, the buy signal in the NASDAQ is in place, and the Russell 2000 is under a full buy signal. No neutral bias whatsoever in this buy signal, despite it not being on volume. The NASDAQ, I still have neutral bias on it towards it with the personal opinion, but overall, it's now in a clear quote-quote buy signal with another higher price today on higher volume still. Looking at that hard right edge and looking at that volume on our upswing here off the June lows following the volume that we saw on the sell-off in June, it's another questionable, half-hearted, comical, below average volume rally in the market. And that can be seen in other stocks. Travel Center of America is one to watch. This is in the AAII Shadow Stocks performance portfolio. This AAII portfolio seems to outperform the market year in and year out, except for in down markets. You're going to get crushed if you just blindly buy these stocks like in 2002, 2008. You're going to lose over 50% each year. However, with this one being in their portfolio, recently added sometime in March, I think it'd be intelligent to watch it for a 50-day moving average breakout. You had Priceline today make a buyable gap up, but would I have bought that gap up? Absolutely not. It is not coming from a consolidation pattern. We're already wedging higher on lower volumes, so this one would never have been traded by me. But still, you can see Priceline a strong day today. SCTY starting to move off its 50-day moving average. You can see on an arithmetic chart still deep in its base, so nothing major there. Also, you can see it's below average volume. Netflix breaking out on a slightly above average volume. Here's a weekly chart, however. And if you're curious where the volume went, I'm also curious also, as it has completely evaporated. Zillow, as you can also see, breaking out above the 50-day moving average above the recent downtrend line connecting the May, June, July highs. It's doing so on no volume. It's good to see Wells Fargo Group making new highs. Continue to watch JP Morgan, Goldman Sachs, and Bank of America to see if follow-through can happen there, but Wells Fargo is the clear bank leader. I noticed that today and that was a positive move. Look at AVG after its buyable gap up and breakout. You can see that it just does not want to pull back. More new highs today on above average volume, and a high price stock DNB breakout, this time on higher volume, but once again, a choppy chart pattern, a V-shaped chart pattern, not really one with the crystal clear setup. And strong moves today. SNTS, nice breakout today. Once again, though, choppy chart pattern isn't nearly as smooth as it was on the 2012-2013 uptrend. So I would wait for another consolidation pattern and then break out before getting long this one. And RMH, I'm going to continue to watch, as it continues to come under heavy accumulation after making a June low. Strong accumulation, strong BOP growth, everything's good. So tonight we have no sells, no covers for Tuesday's stock market session. VVTV, however, after shaking us out by closing below the 20-day moving average on heavier volume and by closing below the low day of the second signal date, but still holding above the 488 lows, we were able to hold on to some of it. Still, I had a feeling that this might be a pretty bad shakeout day and that we might be regretting cutting our losses. Still, a disciplined trading plan is important to have, because if all of a sudden this thing the very next day would have crashed to $4, you would have been like, oh, glad we cut our loss. But it did do what I thought it did. Found some support, has moved sideways, and now it appears like it wants to break out again. This time, though, this move higher is coming on below average volume. Still, BOP has gone back to the max green zone. The stock has held up very well following that shakeout, and it appears that it wants to break out here and rip higher. 535 was the previous high, so a 531 close isn't a new high. But this chart, as you can tell via this uptrending stair-step pattern that it has, wants to move higher. So VVTV, 2% in the risk account, 2% in the non-risk account here on a low volume breakout. As you can see in this chart pattern, it's coiled for a pretty big move. If it doesn't work, though, our cut loss area is clearly drawn with the line in the sand. Worst case scenario, the 50-day moving average. So we know where we're going to be wrong if we are wrong there. And then also a new long, Matson Incorporating, a shipping company I am very familiar with in Hawaii, as Matson and Young Brothers are the two major shipping companies in Hawaii. Matson has got some very strong earnings growth the past few quarters. Sales growth is also picking up. And 2013 and 2014 full year estimates are expected to gain. Mutual fund ownership is recently increasing. They've recently increased their dividend. And as you can see in this price and volume chart patterns here, we have a stair-stepping pattern along the highs. We have this very odd base-like formation. This is my flatter base. Kind of hard to call this a cup with handle, but I guess you could call it a cup with a gigantic handle. So a cup with a gigantic handle is, I guess, the best way to properly identify this one. But following that huge move higher on the 1st of July, it's kind of consolidated, and now it's breaking out higher above those levels on above average volume. BOP has remained max green ever since that very big move on huge volume on 6/28 when we had the end of the month, end of the quarter rebalancing or positioning, I guess you could say, by mutual funds. Followed through the very next trading session. Now here we are moving higher. But overall, you can see off the October and November lows, the stock's been under some very heavy accumulation with no selling. So if the market continues higher, this one should be a good one, as a lot of shipping stocks are also moving higher. There's just a couple other leaders I know of. So everything is kind of lined up for an industry group move there. So it's VVTV, MATX, 2%, no sells, no covers. Have a great Tuesday, everyone.